The Power Factor Show with Rick, Steve, and Caleb. Episode 50.
You can find this podcast and others at Gun Rights Radio Network, gunrightsradio.com. Podcasting freedom.
Brought to you by Safariland.
Hi, and welcome back to Power Factor. I'm Rick. Steve and Caleb are taking a little break, so I thought I'd come over here to John Larson's. You met John in the episode about open guns, and we're going to do a little series about gunsmithing. And John's the man. And what have we got here set up for today, John?
I don't know what we have set up, but this is a vertical mill. And I've been working on a frame to checker it. I had to recontour the front of it, so that's still sitting in it, but I haven't done any of the checkering cuts on it yet.
Okay.
I use this machine probably 80-85% when I'm doing machine work and stuff, and use the lathe, the remainder of that.
Okay. Now, one of the things that's kind of interested me, I've never had any checkering done, although I have a gun with checkering on it. You machine the front strap to a specific radius, which then allows the checkering to all turn out perfectly straight and beautiful.
It all depends on the tooling that you use. And I've done checkering with files by hand. I will never do that again.
Right.
Before I got this fixture that I use now, which is from Neil Keller, Custom Ballistics, I used a rotary table and built some tooling to hold a frame by the rails so the grip is straight up, and then get that all dialed in and then checkered on that. You can take the table and then turn it 90 degrees so you can do longitudinals as well as radials on it.
Okay.
But that's just a real time taker to set up. This thing goes fairly quickly.
Now, once you've got this thing dialed in, can you just plug it in there, or does each time you do a frame, it's a separate, complete setup? And
it's really a separate setup because most of the time you're not going to really true the front strap. I mean, when you cut it, you're going to cut all of the variations out of it. It's going to be straight when you're done with it.
Right.
This thing, because it was an early Springfield frame, you know that they aren't round. They're pretty much flat.
Right.
And that wouldn't work real well in this, so I had to clean that up. Just about every frame has runout in it, though, and they're all different.
Okay.
And
so each setup is distinct. It's not just, this is the way I throw a 1911 frame in there. And, okay.
No, it's not like you push the button and go have lunch.
Oh, see, that's kind of the way that's the way I wanted it to be anyway. So, can you tell? So we've got a special fixture here, and this is this part here that's in the vise. Can I call it that?
Yep, that's what it is.
That's and so you can index it.
Yeah.
And depending on, it'll accommodate different. Like if you want to do 20 line or 25 line or 30 line, you could just choose your indexing.
That.
Okay. Yes. Cool. And then, so now, what kind of a cutter are we going to use on this?
They're thread mills. They're carbide. They're very nasty looking. They're very aggressive. It's just like a little 3/8 inch, a little tiny one, to do the longitudinals, and a 3/4 inch, and it looks real nasty to do the radials. And it's got to be bigger so that you can clear the tooling in the fixture when you're feeding the cutter into it and then swinging the frame. So.
And then since I know absolutely nothing, I never even took a high school machine shop class, so this is kind of interesting to me too. Do feed rates and all these variables that depend on how big the cut's going to be, how deep it's going to be? You have to alter all these variables to suit the...
It's really the material, how hard is it, or surface speed, and the cutter, the material, is a carbide or high-speed steel or something else, and how many teeth are on each of the cutters, the diameter of the cutters, all that figures into it.
Now, when you're doing the cutting, can you tell, like, oh man, this frame is really hard, or boy, this is crap, or and does it go by brand, or is it more kind of random? Or
it's kind of random.
It is.
I think the last frame I checkered was a Caspian titanium frame.
Okay.
One's enough.
Okay. Does that eat the tooling up?
It ate it. Something terrible.
Okay. Okay. Well, we've got our Springfield frame set up in there, so let's make some metal chips out of it.
Okay, so today I'm going to checker this frame. Last time you were here, we looked at it, and Rick was really excited about wanting to see checkering put on a frame. So that's what I'm going to do today. I've already got the fixture zeroed into the vise. It's all zeroed and straight. I have a dial indicator on here now because I need to find the low spot on the front strap. Even though I have trued this up and I know it was dead flat, I've had the frame out of the fixture and the frame will not repeat perfectly. So what I need to do is measure where it is, the low spot and the high spot, and basically run it. Oh, that's not good. I just bumped it. So this is what you run into at the machine shop. And I know that it's low over here. So I want to set this to 0 on the dial indicator, and then I want to see how it runs. It's running about 7 thousandths there, and then I want to run all the way down, you know, to the top. It's gone up another thousandth to about 8, and then roll it back so it's like plus 2.5, and if we come down to the end here, it should come down real close. It's showing about 1 because I don't think that I had it centered up after I bumped it. But I've done this 3 times already this morning, and I know that it's running 7 thousandths. So when I make the first cut, which is going to be in a high area, I'm going to set the cutter 7 thousandths deeper than I normally would, so when I get done cutting, they will all be at the same level, and I'll have really nice peaks on all of the diamonds when I get done with it. So now what I need to do is find the center of the fixture. I'm going to use an edge finder to do that. So now we're going to find out where we need the cutter in relation to the center line of the spindle. So I've got the first cutter in the machine now, and what I need to do again is find the center line of the spindle that this is rotating on. And I've taken lots of measurements and I've written them down. I'm going to have to go look at them in just a second here. I know that I want the center of this cutter to be down 422 thousandths from where the bottom of the cutter touches the top of the fixture. And I'm going to use a piece of feeler gauge to establish that, so I'll know where the cutter is. It's just there, locked up. Now it's just got slight drag on it right there. So I know now that I have to take that dimension out of my equation, and that was a 7 thousandths piece of stock. So I just raised the table 7 thousandths, and from here I know I need to go 422 to be lined up. And I measured something wrong. 22. And that looks right. So I want to zero this just so I have a reference. So I think we're good to go. So what I want to do is bring the table out just so that the cutter touches it. Then I'm going to move the cutter off of the frame and move it out to the depth that I need to start at. So that's zeroed. And now I really want this to cut at like 30 thousandths deep, but I have to take that 7 thousandths into account. So I'm going to move the table 37, and I'm going to lock it there. And I'm going to zero that. I don't feed these very fast. Some guys will machine and they'll just zip those right down there. But I don't like to do that. I don't want to abuse the cutter. That little tiny cutter there is something like $55. And I'd like to use it on more than one frame. And I want to stop the cutter. I can see a line right where the radius starts. And I want to stop it just short of that. And then we'll punch 0 on the DRO, and I'll run all the other cuts to that same point. Like right there. And I'll run it back. And move it one graduation on the index plate and do it again. And now it just gets to be monotonous. Just watch it cut, run it up to 0, run it back, and then index it again, and repeat that all the way around the front. So it's kind of hard to see until you get a couple, 3 lines cut into it, and then you can see, what it's doing. And it is cutting it down below the surface, that was established, which is good. So I'm going to finish this and just turn the wheel and get it down to 0. So that's 2 lines cut. And do it again. And again. Okay, we finished cutting the verticals, and you can see that I have taken the fixture out of the vise and set it up and indexed it now to do the radial cuts that go across the front. So I've got it zeroed. What I need to do now is locate where I'm going to put the first cut going across the frame and then make that cut. And I want to make it shallow and then look at it, because I want these cuts to come out right at the bottom of the existing cuts we've got in there. And that should make the perfect pyramids, and they should have really nice peaks on the top of them. So I'm going to be sitting down a lot doing this, like the whole time, and I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to the DRO, because once I get the depth set on this, I'm going to set a 0 on it and keep coming back to that. For every cut I make on this, I'm going to make a cut and swing it side to side all the way over both ways, come back towards the middle. Then I'm going to have to push the table back. I'm going to have to pick it up 40 thousandths because we're doing 25 lines per inch. Then I'm going to have to move the table back out to 0 on the DRO, and then swing it again side to side, and then push it back, and then keep doing that about 62 times. So it gets to be monotonous. You really have to pay attention. There's a lot of opportunities to make big mistakes doing this, and I don't want to. So I'll lower it down, take an eyeball look at where I want to make this first cut in it. And then I'll put the magic eyes on so I can get a better idea of really where it is. No, we want to go down the other way. And I think that's where I want to start. I also need to slow the speed of the mill down, because I only want to turn this cutter. I really want to turn it somewhere around 300, and the closest I can come to that is like 278, so I'd rather turn it a little bit slower than faster. So this is a step pulley, and I'm changing the position of the belt on the pulleys to get the speed I want. So we got 0, we're turning to the right speed, the table's locked down, here we go. And here we go. Move the table back out to 0. And I'm not doing any of this stuff really quick. And then we're going to swing it. Back the other way. Go back to center, push it back, come up another 40 thousandths. Bring it out to 0. Swing it. Push it back. this to 20. Bring it out. Swing it. So that's pretty much the basics of machine checkering. It is a little monotonous. It's very stressful. At least it is to me, just because there's so many opportunities to make a mistake, especially on the part on doing the radial cuts. It takes about an hour or so to do all of those in there. And by the time you get done with it, you're ready to be done with it. I think that's about all there is on checkering. People finish the top of it differently. Some people will just stop cutting and they'll let the vertical lines just show on the front strap. I like to make a couple of cleanup passes and take those out so there's basically just a narrow band across the top. Some people will get the files out or use the mill again and reposition the frame and the fixture and do a radius all around the front of it and take the material above the checkering back a little bit further so it looks like it's really standing high. And I don't know, I think that's about all there is to checkering on the machine. So if there's any other things that you would like to see, or how-tos, particularly with the machines, please just let me know. Get a hold of the Power Factor boys, or you can get a hold of me at my website. I'm John at jplprecision.com.